So thank you, Omi. My name is Yaniv Aronowich. I'm a partner at Tadmor Levy. We are a full-service law firm here in Tel Aviv. We are the proud sponsors of EcoMotion. I think this is the 5th or 6th year. And we work with a lot of the companies, the investors, the multinationals over here with good insight into this industry. I would like to thank EcoMotion for hosting this event and for allowing me to host this panel. And without further ado, I'd like to call up the panelists. We'll start with Dr. Dominique Freckmann, Manager, Global Technology and Innovation at TE Connectivity. TE Connectivity, for those of you who don't know, is a technology company that designs and manufactures connectivity and sensor products in all kinds of areas, not just automotive, right? Aerospace, healthcare, consumer electronics. Next is Dror Jerushalmi. Dror Jerushalmi is our Israeli participant. Dror is the CEO of Valens, has been the CEO of Valens for about 13 years. So Valens is a semiconductor company, manufacturing and developing semiconductor solutions for the automotive industry. They've partnered with some of the companies that you've seen outside, such as Delphi, GM, Daimler, and others, and where they implement their technology in these companies' solutions. Next up from Lyon, France, Pierre Cotelle, representing Alstom, where he is Networks and Telecom Solutions Director. Alstom is a world leader in integrated transport systems. It has been involved in many of the big Israeli infrastructure projects. And as a transportation system integrator, I think connectivity is a big part of what you do. From Munich in Germany, we have Dr.Karoline Bader. Karoline describes herself as a true enthusiast of anything mobility and data-driven. And in 2017, she sold her startup Park Pocket, a smart data app for parking, to Continental, where she's been ever since. And she is currently Senior Manager of Business Development and Strategy. And last but not least, representing the OEMs is Andrej Wehner, who joined us from Prague in the Czech Republic. Andrej is Chief Corporate Development and Digitalization Officer at SKODA Auto. And as I said, he would be representing the OEMs on this panel. So thank you all for joining us. By the way, this is a riddle. So one of our panelists describes himself or herself as an audiophile, enjoying high-standard hi-fi systems. Another one is a superhero fan. A third one, we have two cyclists, one of which cycled all the way from Mitzpe Ramon to Eilat. That's about 300 kilometers. And a fourth has lived and worked. His career has taken him to 4 different countries. Who is who? You'll have to wait to the end of the panel, so stick around. I'd like to start maybe with just a brief introduction to our topic about connectivity and mobility. Until the invention of the telegraph in the 1800s, connectivity and mobility were related in the sense that you had to be mobile in order to be connected. You had to actually send a messenger in order to deliver complex messages to a faraway destination. But ever since telecom and connectivity solutions have developed and the technology has developed, the tide has turned. And today it is the connectivity that is serving the mobility. We are seeing more and more connectivity solutions implemented in mobility. And I think this is going to be something that's already starting and something we're going to see over the next few years. V2V, all these buzzwords, V2V, V2I, V2X, sensors, cameras, roads, connected, public transport systems, private transport systems, everything is or will be connected to everything else. So our panel here today is about where is all this leading and what are the risks and concerns. And that's what we're going to be discussing with our panelists today. Let's start with getting some perspective, perhaps. So Dominique, we'll start with you. TE Connectivity has a good view into connectivity in general. Like I said, not only automotive, but also healthcare, consumer electronics, and other industries. what are the similarities and dissimilarities between the automotive world or the mobility world and these other worlds you're involved in?
I would say there are mostly similarities. So the trend that we see everywhere is a need for seamless and reliable data connectivity. So if you talk about medical, it's all about the minimally invasive technologies that we see, the advancement of imaging systems, same as in the automotive industry, and the miniaturization of devices, which allows minimally invasive surgery. So that's the big trend in medical. And for us, consumer, it's all about data connectivity, IoT, 5G, cloud connectivity. We build data centers, we build the wireless connectivity. So we see mostly similarities and common trends that we use all across our portfolio.
But would you say there's something that distinguishes the automotive or the mobility sector from these other sectors in terms of maybe time to market or difficulty in implementation?
I would say automotive approaches the consumer timescale. Everything is getting faster, and we don't have these long lifelines that we've used to in automotive, which is why we connect more and more to our consumer colleagues, because they know much more about these quick cycles than we do, and we learn from them to help speed up our developments.
That's interesting. It would be interesting to hear from you, Karoline, being a startup just a few years ago and moving into a big company. How do you see the transition of the connectivity and mobility world?
I mean, I have a background with respect to parking originally, since my startup was a parking startup. So starting from this industry, you could also see in what way connectivity needed to increase during the years. Meaning you also needed to train the different stakeholders like cities, municipalities, car park operators to really increase connectivity when it comes to, well, say it in short, putting data and connecting to systems via interfaces, because they didn't really know how to do it and there is not a real standard. So we also supported them to really get familiar with that and making data accessible via interfaces, then aggregating the data, bringing intelligence into the data, and in the end, delivering the data in the form of a service via JSON REST API to OEMs. That's how we have evolved. And just long story short, the different stakeholders needed a lot of training here. I now also see this in other automotive mobility related areas where different players really need to enable, let's say, their data sources to get familiar with connectivity and improve. Because in the end, it's very simple. Just take connectivity as variable A. Connectivity has an impact on variable B, which is mobility.
And are you seeing more cooperation in the sense as time goes by from these stakeholders, from the government, from municipalities?
Yeah, of course, because, I mean, in the end, you just need to figure out what the value chain looks like. And in order to really accelerate mobility, you need to make sure that everybody in the value chain really gets a bit of the cake. And this is what you need to figure out if you offer, let's say, Incar services, mobility-related services in the market.
That's a good segue to Dror, which also transitioned. His company Valens transitioned. Valens did not always or did not start off as an in-car connectivity solutions company, but rather gradually went into that field. Can you describe the process that took you to where you are today?
Yes. Well, we started in 2006. At that time, there was no automotive industry in Israel. Look what we have today. And we started with professional audio-video market, and I will not be surprised if some of the monitors here are connected with our technology. This market became very nice, and we are growing and generating revenues. But at a certain point of time, one of our people attended a show outside Israel, and he met an automotive guy that understood our technology, and he told him, look, if your company will do in the automotive market what you are doing in the AV market, you'll become a very big company. So this guy came back to Israel, and as a startup, we said, okay, this is an opportunity that we cannot miss. We need to check it. We gave the R&D guys some tasks to check. They made their assumptions. They said, yes, we can do it better, we can do it faster, we can do it much more robust. Our marketing guy tested the market and said, yeah, there's a huge opportunity, and we decided to jump into this market. 4 or 5 years later, I can tell you that 90% of our assumptions were wrong. We totally missed all the assumptions, but we did our adaptations, we fixed the technology, we changed everything. Today we are already with a design win with Mercedes. Mercedes will start shipping cars with our chip next year. Last month, the MIPI Alliance chose our technology to be the standard for the sensors, cameras, and displays connectivity in the car. So we did quite a long journey since then. Today in the company we have 2 different business units. One is focused on the traditional AV market that is very successful, and the other business unit is developing the automotive segment.
Thank you. So we've talked about services, we've talked about connectivity in general, and a little bit about in-car. Let's go to trains. Trains are a unique, maybe set of a unique modality in a way, because connectivity has been around for a while for train companies. It's not something new, as perhaps for cars and other modalities. How are new technologies affecting the train industry?
Well, indeed, in the rail domain, there are 3 kinds of services. And a train-to-ground connectivity is mandatory for critical services like train control, which is critical, but also operational services like CCTV, passenger information system, public announcement, and also some passenger services dedicated to the passenger, Wi-Fi on board, for example. Up to now, each services was supported by one kind of technology, Wi-Fi, cellular, and professional also technology like Tetra or GSMR. 4G is a new technology, now it's a given, enabling some multi-service on the single bearer, on one bearer, and which is quite efficient because it allows to have some quality of service and performance for all these services, and it allows to reduce the cost, and it allows to increase the number of services, which is very important, both for the passenger and the operator. And we see that beyond that, 5G will also enable other things, like, for example, the capability to connect to public networks operated by mobile network operators. And these operators may also deliver a service for other verticals, which is quite interesting. And we see the sharing of connectivity between both rail and other domains. And I am convinced that we can find synergies between the road and the rail, so between tramway, for example, and cars, or even metro and cars.
Andre, turning to you as the representative of the OEM company on the stage. You see a lot of these technologies out there, and I'm sure you meet a lot of them. What specifically are OEMs, and maybe specifically SKODA, looking at in the world of connectivity?
Well, we are looking for everything what helps our customers. Our customers are fully connected today via the smartphones, right? So what they expect from us as the OEM is to have at least the same kind of service in their cars. In fact, they would like to have even more in order to make their life easier when they are traveling. And any kind of solution, what we see out there, what helps our customers, will be integrated into our cars in order to support our customers in this way.
So, I mean, looking at the broad or the many startups over here, what would be your maybe tip or your advice to them if they wanted to pitch to you as an OEM to try out their technology and maybe partner with you? What would you advise them to do?
We just discussed this some minutes ago. Yeah, I think we need to be open from both sides. Yeah? Of course, it's not always easy for a startup to work with a large corporation. But I think you need to be open from both sides in order to get the understanding what is the right level of solution which could be interesting for the customers. And then both sides need to come together, partner, and make the service available very fast to our customers.
So it's all about connectivity between the startups and the OEMs. So although everyone's talking a lot about cameras and sensors and other connected devices between the vehicles and the road, etc., you, Dror, are focusing on the in-car connectivity, which is something also Andre touched on. Why do you see that as maybe the next big thing or one of the next big things?
Well, yes, this is one of the best next things. Well, we all have today in our car 2 to 3 kilometers of wires. We don't see them. They are under the floor. They are everywhere in the car. We don't see them. And this is today when we have probably one display in the car, we have 1, 2 cameras, a few sensors, and that's all. But with the requirements for level 3, of course, level 4 and 5, autonomous driving, there will be many more sensors in the car, many more ECUs. From 100 it will increase to 400, 500 ECUs in the car, more displays. The antenna will connect to 5G network. All of these use cases, all of these devices deliver or consume data, high bandwidth data. And the technologies that we are using today for in-car connectivity cannot support the high bandwidth that are required by all the devices that I just mentioned. So a new technology is required, and a new architecture of wires and a harness is required in the car in order to support all these different devices and use cases very efficiently. Plus, these 2-3 kilometers of wires are very expensive. And the addition of more devices that need to be connected means even more wires, it's more money, and more weight. With efficient technology like Valens technology, we can eliminate the number of cables and enable a lower cost harness and a lighter, less weight in the car, which is always appreciated. So definitely a new approach for in-car connectivity is required by the OEMs and the Tier 1s.
Dominique, TE Connectivity has recently launched campaigns such as Next Generation of Mobility or the Road to Autonomous Driving. Can you elaborate a little bit about those efforts?
So it says in our name, we are TE Connectivity, so our mission is to connect, whether it's data, whether it's power, whether it's wireless, whether it's wired. So we show our vision in the future, how we will be able to continuously support these trends on more connectivity, whether it's data, whether it's power, so high-speed data, high voltage, we connect it all in a reliable and seamless fashion. And so you can read about our statements, you see some more insights about our products, what our experts, how we view these trends, and we invite you to connect with us, especially if you have new ideas that bring us to the next level of this connectivity.
Continental, on the other hand, I think is going blockchain, like the rest of the world. You've announced that you are starting blockchain-based data monetization in the near future, and that's something I would be interested to hear about, including, do you see blockchain as maybe essential for connectivity in the future in terms of security, perhaps?
So first of all, there are different technologies which we consider to be relevant, and to correct you, we will not do this in the future. We have already started this, and we have announced it and publicly showed it on the Mobile World Congress. So what we're actually believing in is really, and here I as a person always have the service business in mind, yeah? And just think about the car driver. If the car driver books different service packages, the car driver is only willing to pay for these services if the services really work. And just imagine, for instance, related to parking, you start your trip in Munich, and you cross the border and you drive to, let's say, Prague or another city. Of course, you will only pay for the service if then, when you reach the destination, the service actually works. And here you don't care if it's parking in a garage or if it's parking on the street or whatsoever. For you, the only important thing is the parking experience. So why do I tell this story? Because, of course, OEMs have, let's say, there is no OEM who covers the whole globe, but OEMs want services to work globally. So this, for instance, means that someone like BMW is strong in Munich and yet Germany in general. Someone like Peugeot is strong in Paris and France in general. Someone like Toyota is fairly strong in Japan, and someone like GM is strong in the US, right? So our experience with OEMs is also, and fleet providers, that they have understood that there is a need to really break up the data silos in order then to really provide the best service experience for the car drivers. And here it's not only about convenience like parking, it's also related to safety-related services, road weather, road quality, road friction, whatsoever. And this is actually why we started this blockchain-based monetization platform to enable the shareholders to share and monetize the data with each other. Blockchain, because for this you don't need a middleman. So you can bilaterally do it.
Right. That, talking a little bit about security there, I'm going to go to Pierre now, which is always a big, security is always a big issue when dealing with connecting with different systems, which is something that you do a lot. How do you see these mass mobility industries or these multimodal systems interconnecting in terms of security?
Yes, you're right. Security is a very big challenge. Availability and integrity are absolutely mandatory for critical communication, safety-related communication, while confidentiality is mandatory for everything dealing with passenger, especially. So, of course, risk assessment must be done on this part, highlighting the risk level for each application, because we are mixing many applications, and the risk is not the same for all of them, and the context is not the same for each of them, which requests a specific study for each context and each application. Now, mitigation are, of course, technical, having let's say, product enhancement, like a secure protocol or this kind of user rights and so on. Security by design is necessary. That's why we need to take this at an early stage during standardization, which is very important. But also process and organization during the life cycle of this solution. You have to know that rail system is a safety system. Safety means stability, means minimum of change, and cybersecurity is totally contrary. So we need to be reactive. We need to update on the fly to face any concern. So this is a challenge today. This is a paradox that must be managed properly, meaning the right security at the right place and the right time.
Got a big job ahead of you, I think.
A big challenge, yeah.
So like much of technology, connectivity solutions, including security solutions, are developed by hundreds, if not thousands of companies. And Andre, you get the lawyer question. Where is all this going from a regulatory standpoint? Is there going to be, or will there ultimately be convergence of standards, of rules, and who's going to be pushing this forward? Is it going to be the industry? Is it going to be governments? Is it going to be lawyers?
Well, first of all, I believe there has to be really a close cooperation between the industries because the data-related services will not work if one OEM or one company or one industry will only work in one direction. It will not work together. If you see just, for example, a car-to-car communication, it will not work if only one OEM provides anything, and it will not work with the other cars. Also in terms of smart city concepts, it will not work if one OEM has the data and it will not interlink with the interfaces from the city side. So for the sake of our customers, there needs to be a really close cooperation. Personally, I believe more in standardization because the push should come from the industry itself. I'm not so much believing in regulation, but of course there has to be a strong interlinkage between the industry and the regulators.
I always think of it as when we have autonomous cars, will the autonomous car be a German driving car or an Israeli driving car? Because those are going to be totally different autonomous cars. So that's an interesting segment to watch over there. Before we close down this panel, I'd like each of you to say one sentence about where they think connectivity is going to be in maybe 2-3 years from now, and then in 10 to 20 years from now. But before you answer, you each have to tell us who's the superhero fan, who are the cyclists, who's worked and lived in 4 countries, and who is the audiophile. So we can just go according to the order of seats. Andre.
Okay, so SKODA Auto has always been there for the customers in terms of mobility. More than 120 years we are providing mobility in different terms, but I think Bill Ford mentioned it also today in the keynote. In the first 100 years, our concepts didn't change too much. It developed, but there was no disruptive change. Now, mobility will change in a disruptive way, and will be there also in the future for our customers in a different way of mobility. And I was one of the cyclists.
Thank you.
Actually,
Karoline.
I strongly believe in a system of systems approach, and of course this relates to connectivity and the way mobility develops in the future. So I believe that there will not be like a difference between industries in the future. I rather think that industry boundaries become semi-permeable. So meaning we definitely need to find the way of, and now talking of data being produced in the different industries, because in the end, I always like to have a service focus, and I just think about what is like really the resources you need for specific service. And here I would not care, does it only come from the automotive industry? Does it come from ICT? Does it come from smart cities or whatever? Yeah, for me, it's always the service in the focus, and then I figure out where it comes from. That's why I believe in a system of systems approach. And fun fact, since I grew up with 2 brothers, I'm the superhero fan.
Thank you, Pierre.
Well, I consider that connected mobility will enable the convergence of mobility. And this will be for a better end-to-end passenger journey. And I think that it will be possible with the cooperative connectivity and the shared connectivity between various verticals, as I mentioned before. That's it. I am the one having lived in several countries. 4 countries.
Thank you. Dror.
Well, I'm the audiophile, and with regards to connectivity, I'll refer to the Incar connectivity. I think that the Incar connectivity will change dramatically. First, the demand for high speeds will increase. We'll have much higher resolution cameras and higher resolution displays in the car, and the 5G network, of course. All of this will require higher bandwidth, and the architecture of the harness and the electronics in the car will change dramatically in the next few years.
Thank you. And Dominique, finally.
Yeah, well, for us, it's the seamless and ultra-robust, highly reliable connectivity, both on the power and the data side, to connect vehicles, infrastructure, grid. This whole seamless reliability will lead us to the next stage of safer and sustainable mobility. And I'm the other cyclist, the one that cycled 6 days through the Israeli Negev desert from Mitzpe Ramon to Eilat, and it was great.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, EcoMotion, again, for hosting us, and we'll see you all next year, I hope. Thank you.